Evening, everyone. Welcome to The Next Revolution. We are pro-worker, pro-family, pro-community, and, of course, pro-America. These days, as a new citizen, I feel especially pro-America when I'm outside America, as I was for the last couple of weeks, on a family vacation in Europe. Being abroad puts things in perspective, and this certainly did for me. It's Napoleon's tomb in Paris. I took these pictures there on Friday. As you can see, not exactly a modest character, Napoleon. And all around his sarcophagus, there are tributes to his greatness, including his own boast that he replaced the entire legal system with his own law, the Code Napoleon, updating the personal legal system of a previous French monarch, Louis XIV, who proclaimed "L'État, c'est moi," basically, I am the law. How different from America, I thought. Our founding fathers, American heroes like Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and Benjamin Franklin, one of their driving principles was the Enlightenment's rejection of absolute monarchy and nobility. And from that came one of our most important founding principles: equal justice under law. Nobody is above the law or below it. Each American citizen, regardless of rank or status or belief, must live by the same set of rules. It was the basis for a completely new paradigm of what a government could be: self-government. Our founders spent weeks locked in a hot room in Philadelphia arguing over exactly how this should be implemented. They even argued about what to call the head of state of this new republic. Obviously not king, like in England, or emperor, as Napoleon was, but some suggested Your Excellency or Your Most Benign Highness. In the end, even those were rejected as too closely resembling monarchy, and the founders settled on their simple, but at the time truly revolutionary title, Mr. President. And that is one of my favorite examples of just how seriously they took the concept of equal justice under law. It's part of the philosophical bedrock of America. But in practice, today in America, do we actually have it? Our current Attorney General seems to think so.
Upholding the rule of law means applying the law evenly, without fear or favor.
Evenly, without fear or favor. Of course, he was talking this week about his decision to authorize a raid on former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home, ostensibly over mishandled official documents. Mishandled documents? I mean, come on. As someone once said,
what difference at this point does it make?
Well, obviously quite a lot of difference, which is why Merrick Garland and FBI Director Christopher Wray, and who knows, perhaps President Biden too, all authorized this unprecedented raid on a former president. Armed agents swooping in, even ransacking former First Lady Melania Trump's bedroom, because no one is above the law. And yes, if there's evidence of violations of statutes, then that does justify a search warrant, as it did in the case of a different former First Lady, you know, the one with the missing emails. We know there was evidence of a crime in her case because the former FBI director said so.
There is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information.
And because, as Merrick Garland so rightly says, upholding the rule of law means applying the law evenly, without fear or favor, we all remember the famous pre-dawn raid on the Clinton compound in Chappaqua, New York, except, no armed federal agents in the Clintons' driveway, no cracking into her safes to see what else she might be hiding. Definitely no ransacking of Bill Clinton's bedroom, probably just as well. Why so relaxed about classified information in the Clinton case? Here's that James Comey statement in full.
Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case.
Oh, our judgment. Interesting. So when it's a disruptive outsider who's the former office holder, it's all about applying the law evenly. But when it's an insider like Hillary Clinton, well, that's just a matter of our judgment. Was that fear or favor? Probably a bit of both. That's how it works in what has become Americans' ruling class, the establishment. A lot of favors going on. The big mistake or deliberate distortion being made over this story is when you hear people say, how can this be partisan? James Comey was a Republican. Christopher Wray is a Republican. But this is not about Democrat versus Republican partisanship. It is about the establishment versus those who challenge it. which is why when Comey himself was caught leaking classified information, a potential crime, absolutely nothing happened. So much for the grave importance of enforcing the law over classified documents. And by the way, so much for Democrats' ludicrous spin to their media servants that this Trump raid was all about preventing nuclear secrets from getting into our enemies' hands. Yeah, they were so worried about that, they waited 18 months. But whatever, don't quibble. There's a higher principle at stake, as Merrick Garland reminded us.
Faithful adherence to the rule of law is the bedrock principle of the Justice Department and of our democracy.
Exactly, a bedrock principle. That's why when the establishment's former CIA chief, John Brennan, lied to Congress, a crime, nothing happened. When the establishment's former director of national intelligence, James Clapper, committed the same crime, nothing happened. When the establishment's Obama Attorney General, Eric Holder, was held in contempt of Congress, a crime, nothing happened. And when the establishment's former IRS Commissioner, Lois Lerner, committed the same crime, nothing happened. But it's okay. Not every crime ends up being prosecuted. And as the great legal oracle, our wizened father of justice, Merrick Garland, says,
all Americans are entitled to the even-handed application of the law.
Exactly, so reassuring. Except if you're anti-establishment, in which case, if you're found to have committed the exact same crimes that are completely ignored when members of the establishment commit them, you're immediately arrested by federal agents in the most humiliating and high-profile way. How dare these people talk about applying the law evenly without fear or favour? Merrick Garland, once put forward for the Supreme Court, wouldn't recognise equal justice under law if the words fell off the front of the building and landed on his head. If the law is being applied evenly, why is there no investigation into this sitting president, Biden, who as vice president turned the White House into a sleazy influence peddling operation? We know for a fact that Biden exploited his public office for personal gain. The evidence is clear, some of it in his own voice. These are the crimes that Joe Biden could be charged with under accessory laws for aiding and abetting, tax fraud, money laundering, violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, influence peddling and corruption, the FARA laws, racketeering under RICO laws. Will anything ever happen? We know the answer because we saw it before with Clinton, Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Holder, Lois Lerner. The establishment always looks after its own. But when the American people put an outsider in there to challenge the establishment after their 50 years of failure, corruption and misrule, they just can't stand it, so they throw the book at them, even if it's total fiction. Mueller, Strzok, Schiff, Comey, Clinton, all the rest of them collaborating what we now know was the complete hoax of Trump-Russia collusion. The FBI fabricating evidence, endorsing the notorious pack of lies that was the Steele dossier, lying to the FISA court, totally forfeiting its public trust. And now the FBI director, Christopher Wray, turns around and says that criticism of the FBI erodes respect for the rule of law. No, Mr. Wray, we don't need criticism of the FBI to undermine respect for the rule of law. You've done that all on your own. First, with the FBI's outrageous behavior over the Russia hoax, and now with this heavy-handed fiasco of the Mar-a-Lago raid. How is it possible that we ended up with an FBI director even worse than Comey? Instead of lecturing us about respect for the law, Christopher Wray should be apologising for his own role in destroying it before handing in his long-overdue resignation. As for the Attorney General, my God, not content with pursuing parents as domestic terrorists, now he's hijacking the justice system to meddle in the 2024 election. The establishment and the media are saying, how dare Trump supporters get angry about this? They were the ones who chanted, lock her up, lock her up. Yes, but Trump didn't lock her up. He didn't weaponize law enforcement to go after his political opponents. It was the establishment that did that to him. Ever since the January the 6th hearings began, all we've heard from the Democrats, the media, the establishment is lock him up.
They have to move forward with indicting Donald Trump. I hope that Merrick Garland does the right thing here and pursues that. And it looks like the inner circle is closing in.
Lawmakers calling on Attorney General Merrick Garland to charge the former president if the Justice Department's investigation finds him criminally responsible for his role in the insurrection.
If Merrick Garland's afraid to bring charges if Donald Trump's not running, Donald Trump has cynically concluded that Merrick Garland is too weak to bring charges against a man who very clearly broke the law on January the 6th.
And like the dutiful establishment poodle that he is, Merrick Garland this week pandered to the cries for revenge. They loved calling Bill Barr Trump's personal lawyer, an obviously ludicrous claim. But Merrick Garland is now obviously not just Biden's personal lawyer, he's the Democrats' personal lawyer, MSNBC's personal lawyer, CNN's personal lawyer. Merrick Garland is the personal lawyer for the entire rage-filled establishment mob baying for Trump's blood. These reckless partisans who got elected on a pledge to save the soul of America. Instead, they are ripping us apart. Until they're gone, all of them, Garland, Christopher Wray, Biden, and his gang of divisive wreckers, it will be impossible for Americans to believe that we have equal justice under law, because right now we have something very different. A politicized justice system that protects the ruling establishment and punishes anyone who dares to challenge it. Tell us what you think at NextRevFNC and at Steve Hilton X, and share this message.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.